Here we treated late stage diseases, serious patients. Patients often came to hospital or to the doctor much earlier.
One Indian doctor, what challenged you the most in America?
When I left India for US, the government of India gave us only $6 and an empty suitcase. And I didn't know where I was going to go for. As I talk about patient-centric care, and I think that is the next stage we should be going to, whereby it will give Udaipur an identity. Sitting and in front of me, the pictures of GBH were there, and I remembered the promise I had made to my father that I will do something medical in Udaipur. Don't chase money, chase excellence.
What's up now? We are coming to have a master question of the show. The question is that what moment changed your life?
The real turning point was
What's up? Welcome me in the show moment of life.
thank you, Rajat.
What's up? When did you first understand the power of education?
Rajat, this happened to me quite early as a child. In first and second class, when I was being taught literally by a teacher under a tree, I really didn't care for education very much. I would have to be carried to the class. But then, when I entered third grade and went to a primary school and a government school, a teacher recognized my math talent and asked me to score the rest of the class on a midterm test. That was a huge ego booster for me as a young child of 8 years. For an 8-year-old child to mark his class for a half-yearly test was huge. It made me feel proud, and it set a trajectory for rest of my life that I never looked back. And I said, I have to be top of the class. And I always was from there on.
So why did you choose America? What is the biggest difference you feel in American healthcare industry?
At the time I went to US, that was in 1977, US represented the best in the world. In everything, whether it was inventions, medicine, engineering, education, just about everything. More than 90% of the major inventions in the world had happened in US. So it was truly a dream to go there and be a part of that process, to learn at the best of the institutions and hope that you would also be a part of the discoveries that have happened or the higher education that occurred. And in 1977, I got a chance and I grabbed it, and the rest is history.
So what is the major difference between the healthcare industry in India and America?
So Rajat, difference in medicine was huge. Here we treated late stage diseases, serious patients. Over there, patients often came to hospital or to the doctor much earlier. The focus was on prevention. The focus was early treatment. And I saw the result that a lot more patients were cured of the diseases than we could hear. Take the example of cancer. Today, 75% of all cancers can be cured permanently in US, while in India that number is 25%. Oh. The main difference is awareness and availability of resources. And I saw the same thing back in 77 when I went there.
What's up, as an Indian doctor, what challenged you the most in America?
Challenges at multiple levels. I left India for US. The government of India gave us only $6 and an empty suitcase, more or less. When I landed in New York, the temperature there was minus 9 degrees centigrade, and I didn't have the proper shoes or clothes for that temperature. And I didn't know where I was going to go for the rest of my stay. I literally had one phone number and that's it. And I didn't have enough money to make that call either. Second level was to adjust to US, the language they understand, the accent they understand. And as an example, I was talking to somebody and we were talking about engineering. And I said, engineers in India. And he said, what? And I said, engineers in India. And this went on a few times. Finally, he got it and said, you mean engineers in India? That tells you that our accent had to be corrected, adjusted, and relearned.
Sir, what did America teach you that India didn't teach you?
So India taught me a lot.
Okay.
But I would say one thing that I learned in America, or maybe I say two things. One thing was that quality sells. If you provide quality anything, it will sell, whether it is service or product or whatever else. So one thing I learned was quality sells. And second thing was that if you do your work honestly, you will eventually get ahead. And those two lessons I learned in US.
But sir, why did you feel the need to build a institution in India?
India gave me a lot. It provided me with values to succeed. It gave me free education at some of the best institutions of the country. And along with that, it even gave me a scholarship on top of that. Besides that, when I wanted to go to US, my father first said, no, you are my younger child and you will stay here. But then he came right after that, very next year to Delhi and said, no, you go because you so much desire to go for higher education. But he extended a promise on me. He will do something in Udaipur in medical trade. So along with these, I was totally aware that the medical facilities in Udaipur were, call them atrocious in my views, because I had personal experience. I lost my mother at the age of 40 from a simple hysterectomy, which is a very simple surgery. Lost brother to an accident at the age of 47. Lost my father at the age of 70, but his first heart attack. So all this gave me that feel that I should do something in the field of medicine. I had seen the best in the field of medicine, not just at AIMS, but also in USA and some of the best institutions I was part of. All that gave me the drive, the energy to want to do something here, where very little existed in terms of high level of care. And that's what led to the opening of the first hospital, that is the GBH Medical.
Lots of web responsibilities and ethics you followed when you established the hospital in India.
Rajat, first of all, I started this hospital with a certain purpose in mind. And I felt that that purpose is more important than anything else. Keeping that purpose to make advanced care available to the people of this area was a challenge because the cost was always an issue. But I also realized that you can reduce the cost in certain areas. And for example, same medicine comes in a cheaper version as well as a more expensive version. Why go with a more expensive version? But that purpose allowed me to do many things. For example, we started the first trauma center of the area. Another example, we obtained the quality measure of the hospital, that is the NABH certification, very early on. And when we did that, another thing happened that many others started following. When we first started the first hospital in the area, that was a super specialty. Few years later, other hospitals came. So it sort of started a new, call it a revolution in healthcare for the area. So the responsibility was to provide quality care at affordable price, and I did the best I could in that area. But that was not meant just to help the people, but to help me also feel better about myself, improve my life.
As a being a doctor, you served more than 30 years as a doctor. So, which moment touched your heart deeply in terms of medical?
But I'm an oncologist, which is a cancer specialist, and I've done that for more than 40 years. So I often think in that field, and I'm always thinking, how can you make the greatest difference with limited resources that we have? And one thing that has struck me the most, that is, there is a vaccine available for cancer of the cervix. It actually it prevents 6 different cancers, but primarily cancer of the cervix, which is the biggest, the commonest cancer in rural women today. Until 10 years ago, it was the commonest cancer in all women all over India. Every fourth woman who dies from this cancer in the world dies in India. And 75,000 women die every year. Now, that number in India may not sound like much, but that's 75,000 families, because these are generally young women between 30 to 60, and they have young children. The family is disintegrated. Now, that can be prevented almost 100% by 2 shots of a simple, relatively cheap vaccine. 2 shots in lifetime. And yet, not 1% of Indian girls have been vaccinated. There are countries in the world who have vaccinated 100% of the girls who are eligible for that. And we haven't quite done that. That is something that bothers me. And that is an area that every chance I get, I try to educate.
Respectable doctor, Dr. Kirti Jain. So, what sacrifices your family have done for you?
To that end, if you go back, my father endured probably the most in that. My mother, his wife, wasn't there, and yet he let his younger child leave town and then leave country. But then along the way, everybody else sacrificed to my wife, who endured countless hours of raising children without me. My children, who wanted to see, there were many nights they went to bed without me, uh, even though they may have waited to see me. Many events that happened in their lives when I should have been there and I wasn't. And same for me as well, that there are many places or many events I would have liked to have been at, but I wasn't able to, either because I was in a hospital, or I was studying, or I was in a research lab. So, and when I developed the hospital system here, I've been coming to India every 3 months for last 5 years, which itself was a drag on health. You go through jet lag, but you change yourself in the 2 different worlds, because living in India is a different world than living in the US. So all those things were a part of the process, and like you always have to give up something to achieve something.
Lakshya, being a founder of so many institutions and hospitals, what when which are the paths you think in your mind that you want to give to society more?
So Rajat, since we started the first private hospital in 2006, there have been a number of institutions that have started on Udaipur. They have literally proliferated. But the next stage in that sequence, and the next stage for Udaipur, advancement of Udaipur, would be to take that medicine to the next level of care that I often call patient-centric care, which simply means when you are in a hospital, no matter who you are, think how we can do the best for that patient, because that patient has come with certain expectation, a lot of fear, and perhaps spending more than he can afford to. So, with that said, whenever I get a chance, I talk about patient centric care, and I think that is the next stage we should be going to. whereby it will give Udaipur an identity in the field of medicine.
But sir, one message for India's young talent and dreamers who want to be a doctor for the society.
Talk to young doctors often, and I always give them this message, which is my favorite one, that don't chase money, chase excellence. The reason is simple. When you chase excellence, money will follow. But if you chase money, you will be chasing rest of your life and you'll never catch it. So irrespective of why you want to be good, if you chase excellence, you will come out ahead in every aspect. You will come out ahead in your personal life, and money will follow. But if you chase money, you may get some, you may not get some, and your personal life will be a mess.
What's up? Now we are coming to have a master question of the show. A question is that what moment changed your life?
The real turning point was my desire to go to US led me to take the exam for US. I succeeded in that. I applied for visa and I was ready to receive visa. I came to Udaipur. Back then there were no phones. At least not that I could easily connect. So I hopped on the train, came to Udaipur and sought my father's permission. And I received an absolute no. He said, I let you go to Delhi even though I didn't want you to. Now you want to go to US, you're my second child, and my mother wasn't there. So there was the younger child always has a little extra maybe.
Yes.
So he absolutely said no, and I kind of left Udaipur back to Delhi with a long face. But when apparently my father, when he saw that, he couldn't keep himself, and very next day he hopped on the train, came to Delhi and said, you go to US because that's your desire, that's you need to get ahead in life. And that moment, which happened out of a parent's love, that probably changed the trajectory of my life, in that I was able to experience the best in medicine, in hospital, and many other areas that I would have missed otherwise. But then I also realized that I had not been able to do. So I sort of thought deeply about that question as to why, what is it that's keeping me? And I realized that it was the fear that whatever little I had accumulated by then, I can possibly lose because I don't know how things done in India. But then, at the same time, another answer flashed through my head that even if I was to lose all that, I had enough confidence and enough skills and enough knowledge that I can make it anywhere in the world. And that translated to the first hospital we opened in Udaipur.